Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Today we have Mark Licharz, CEO of Licharz, one of the biggest nylon producers in Europe, in Germany. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. Well, Mark, as I was telling you, the idea is to have a conversation regarding uh, plastics and your material. You are a very knowledgeable person in this industry, and also to educate our distributors in Latin
Mm.
America regarding quality materials and what's going on with the business. All
Yep,
right?
that's
Okay.
great. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about Licharz, the story, and your medium and long-term goals.
Okay. Well, the company was actually started by my father-in-law way back in 1962. So we've been doing plastics now for well over 50 years, and he started it out of the living room of his apartment, just trading, buying and selling. But he worked hard, and the company grew quickly. And he quickly moved into his own building and added some equipment, moved into more value added things like cutting, saw cutting, and planing, and eventually into machining finished parts. And he machined all sorts of plastics at that point. But more and more he got into the cast nylon material because he liked the properties of it. He found that it was a really good material for the industrial applications, and so he started kind of focusing more and more on that. And then eventually, in the mid 1970s or so, he decided to try to make cast nylon himself, um, which was a bit difficult at first. Produced a lot of scrap. But eventually it worked, and he went from, producing, you know, just a few tons in the first few years to, now we work with about 6,000 metric tons
Oh,
each year. So it's a big operation. And, uh, you know, we're expanding all the time. We're currently, although I have to say, we're still family owned,
okay.
family owned and run. So I actually run the business with my brother-in-law, um, and my wife works in the business. His wife works in the business. So so despite we have about 270, 280 employees right now,
Wow.
but I think we still have a family feel to the business. Um,
Tell me a little bit
yeah.
about your plans. Where are you going with the business, right?
Well, our goal is to remain one of the leading cast nylon manufacturers.
Okay.
Um, uh, we want to be a company that's easy to do business with. There's a lot of companies out there that make doing business difficult, and we'd like to be one that makes doing business easy. Um, you know, for us, producing a quality product is a given. That's If you're not producing a quality product, um, then we don't want to be in the business. That's kind of a German mentality. The Germans uh, they want to make good product, and that's very important to us. What are our goals? We want to continue growth. We want to continue expanding. 2 years ago we added a 1,000 square meter building just for our electrical and maintenance division. We have our own people who do maintenance on all our equipment. They got their own building now. We added 1,000 square meters of warehousing. Just this year, we added another over 1,000 square meters for our saw cutting of round semi-finished materials. Um, and in the next few years, we're probably going to get a lot more into automation and automation of our warehouse and logistics.
Oh, that's
So that we're, not just that area. That's probably going to be the big investment, but I think we're, everywhere in the company, automation is going to play a big role.
very interesting. We'll get back to logistics later on. And tell me a little bit about your product range and some of the key applications that you have.
Okay. Well, our product range, and I'll just talk about the materials that we produce ourselves, because we do sell a whole variety of materials, but basically what we produce ourselves is cast nylon, and we make all sorts of varieties of that. The main is just regular linotam. That's our brand name for it. Just normal linotam in natural, in black, in blue. We can do it in yellow, and in different colors and certain things. And then we have a group of that we call linotam glide, which is maybe oil filled or solid lubricant filled.
I happen to have one here, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And those are for sliding applications where maybe lubrication is difficult, and so it gives a lower coefficient of friction, longer wear. And then we have a group called linotam drive, which is basically for driven applications. And those tend to be, those are a cast nylon that have a metal core cast into it. So you can cut keyways into it, and you can actually transfer power, the torque, almost as if you have. It's a lot of times used for gears, and you can. It's power transmission, and you can basically calculate the torque like you're using a steel gear, but you have the advantage of having the soft plastic gear teeth, and of course you have weight savings as well.
Perfect. And as far as applications for cast nylon, where are what sort of the key applications that have been using more and more cast nylon right now?
That's a tough one, because one of the great things about cast nylon is that it can be used everywhere. There's, one of the first applications I need to mention is probably cranes.
Yes.
Building cranes. That's actually a fairly good market for us, or big market for us, but it's fairly specialized, because many of these crane manufacturers, we need to do all the engineering on the shivs and lay everything out for them. But really, food processing equipment, packaging equipment, really. That's the great thing about nylon, is that it goes everywhere. So pretty much in all industrial equipment, there could be cast nylon inside.
No problem. And as you know, we've been talking to several key plastic semi-finished product producers, and one of the things we hear is that the high performance market is developing strongly. How is the high performance market for cast nylon developing in your case?
What do you mean by the high performance market?
It's basically very reinforced nylons, high temperatures, like the higher end type of materials.
Okay. Well, I think those tend to be not the cast nylons. Those tend to be injection molded.
Okay.
Where there's a lot of fillers. Whether it's glass fiber, whether it's glass balls, whether there's all sorts of reinforcing things in there. And a lot of that goes into automotive applications.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's something in a cast nylon, we can't actually get those fillers into the material just because of the production process. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes I think it's actually really good that we're not in the automotive market.
But in terms of resins, Is the key, are the nylon resins developing to with new properties, or there's no development on that side?
Yes, I mean, I do read about new developments in nylon resins, but since we don't work with resins, that's not really our it's not really our area. The raw material for cast nylon is a liquid chemical called caprolactam.
Mm-hmm.
And so really what we're doing, we're taking chemicals and we're causing a chemical reaction and we're making the polymer out of the chemical. So if you were to take our semi-finished product and chop it up into really small pieces, you'd have resin.
Perfect. Well, we learn every day. Perfect. And one of the things we get asked a lot from our customers and distributors, how do they recognize a quality, a quality cast nylon from the non-quality? How do you recognize quality?
That's a tough one. Because unless there's obvious defects on the surface, you can't see it. You're going to notice it when it's in the application, and then it's too late. So how do you recognize it? You almost can't. Like I said, I mean, if there's voids and holes and whatnot on the surface, that's an obvious indicator. But a lot of times that will be inside the material, or the material won't have the mechanical properties that it's supposed to have, which will lead to failure when it's being used. So, really the only way to be sure you're getting quality product is to buy it from a reputable manufacturer. That's really the only way to be sure. And then, and a reputable manufacturer will stand by their product as well. If there's a problem, then it should be very easy to deal with that problem.
Perfect. And another topic we also we have right now, as you know, in Latin America there are two markets, and one is the extruded material, and the other one is the cast nylon. What are the differences, and how when do you use one versus the other?
Yeah, I would say extruded nylon has a historical advantage over the cast nylon.
Yes.
I think it's just better known because it was there first. But really, when you're looking at what material to use, there's going to be three things you need to look at. You need to look at the mechanical properties. Is the material going to do what I need it to do? And the cast nylon, in most respects, in most mechanical properties, is better or outperforms the extruded nylon. So in general, if you're going to substitute cast nylon for extruded nylon, you're going to end up with a better product. The second thing you need to look at is availability. What size is the part that I'm going to make? Is the material available? What kind of quantities do I need? Cast nylon, because it's poured as a liquid, it can be made in all sorts of shapes, dimensions. We make rod that's 800 millimeters in diameter and a meter long. Yeah. You can't do that with extrusion. So if you need big blocks, big discs, big parts, that's going to be a lot easier to get out of cast nylon. If you're looking for really small parts, 6 millimeter, 8 millimeter, 10 millimeter diameter, that's going to come from extruded, because that's good to extrude. It's not good to cast. And then I think the third thing you need to look at when you're comparing the two materials is price. Because that's always a factor. And in general, the cast nylon is less expensive than the extruded nylon. So, obviously being a cast nylon manufacturer ourselves, I'm probably a little bit biased.
Well, with that, yes.
But you're getting a better material at a better price.
You're getting more value overall, yes.
Yeah, yeah. And that's actually something, if we go back to your previous question about quality, where I think, it's important to buy quality, but I think it's important to sell quality as well. And that's not always that easy, because the good quality material is generally going to be more expensive than bad quality material. Mm-hmm. And the purchasing agent is going to focus on the price, right? I mean, we all know that, the purchasing agent, he's like, well, I have your quote and I have this guy's quote, you're more expensive. And, I think you need to put the focus on the cost of the bad material. What's the cost of having the part fail while it's in service? What's the cost of having that cheap part, having to replace it more often? What's the cost to the customer's reputation when that part fails? So I think it's good to get the focus away from the price of the good material and rather a cost, that the bad material is actually probably going to cost more. That was just sorry.
Very good. No. That's a very good, because we get this question asked a lot, even from salespeople. Say, how do I sell it?
Yeah.
No. That's a very good point. Other thing which is right now in the news, and many people are asking us. As you may know, there is you're American. As you may know, there is a lot of discussions between the Chinese and the U.S. Regarding import tariffs, and this already has impacted some of the raw materials and may have a further impact. Any views on how this may affect our industry?
I think the impact on our industry will be indirect. There's the materials that we buy or the raw materials which we use and the resins. Europe and Asia don't have a trade war going on, so whatever resins are coming from Asia won't be affected by that. The caprolactam which we buy is actually produced in Europe, so that has no effect. But I do think if the U.S. and China really escalate this, then and that causes a downturn in machinery and equipment building, and you have sort of an overall economic downturn, then obviously that's going to affect us. Anytime there's fewer machines being built, there's less plastic needed. But if that's the case, then we're going to have a bigger problem on our hands than just a couple of fewer machines. Then we're going to have a full-blown recession, I think.
Okay.
We'll keep our fingers crossed that certain people come to their senses.
All right. Yeah. Everybody. And Mark, lastly, can you comment a little bit regarding your logistics? How do you handle your exports on the logistics of Licharz?
Okay. Well, we have obviously we have a logistics department, shipping. They handle shipping, packing, and the logistics of actually getting the packages from here to where they need to go. We use regular normal carriers. Within Europe, it's all trucks. We use normal truck freight. And when we go overseas, then it's the customer's choice whether we use ocean freight or air freight. Ocean freight has the advantage of being much, much cheaper. Air freight has the advantage of being much, much quicker. So it's always a trade-off. But generally, it goes ocean freight, and our customers just plan with those lead times. Our logistics department does a very good job of researching what are, let's say, the specific rules and regulations regarding the countries where we're shipping to, what types of wood we're allowed to use in the pallets.
That's quite important, yes.
What sort of documentation is needed, and we'll work with the carrier to make sure all the paperwork is in order, and obviously we work with the customer. It all depends who does the custom entry, and that's so we want, like I said, we want to be easy to do business with. So we do our research, and we make sure that we've got all our paperwork in order, and that it can go through customs when it gets there.
Great, great. Well, Mark, thank you very much for your time. I think I want to talk to you for a while. It's really, really interesting to learn regarding your business, and obviously people here will be very interested to see this. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.